SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Okay, so welcome back. This is now we are on the fourth video for week 8. So this is the and we will continue our discussion what we had earlier in this particular week. We are looking at plastic and circular economy. I introduced you the concept of circular economy. Before that, we also looked at the plastic resource recovery options. That is the kind of content for this particular week. So continue with that discussion. If you remember from that last video, towards the end we were talking about some case studies, and that case study will continue here. We'll look at we started looking at the Unilever, what are the initiative that Unilever is taking. Unilever's Indian arm is Hindustan Lever, and I think in India also now it is called Unilever. So we'll look at that case study in more detail today, and then we'll try to cover some other aspect. So same the topic is plastic and circular economy case studies for this particular video. And to get started, this is say we are looking at the Unilever, which is trying to go towards circular economy. As you know, Unilever is a very big FMCG company. They make variety of products. You see their ads on TV like every time you watch TV, you will pretty much see 1 or 2 ads from that particular company of different products, is starting from say whether it's household products, detergents, soaps, and there are the n number of products that they make. And as they make those products, the product is shipped in packaging. Different packaging methods are used. So they create a lot of packaging waste. So that's what they are looking at, is how they design their packaging, which is what they were emphasizing on in this particular case study that we are looking at. So they have certain ideas of that. They want to reduce the use of material. So they want to have less material that is being used. So they are looking at reducing the use of material. They are using more recycled content. If whatever the material they use, if they can increase the recycled content, so the recyclability of that goes up. And they are also looking at packaging, if they can go for certain packaging which is like a recyclable or compostable. So if it's a recyclable or compostable, so compostable means it's a biodegradable, so it becomes easier to manage. Recyclable, which is easy to recycle. See, the problem with many of this packaging material is many times we use multiple material together. That's also called multi-layer plastic. One example is that. So with this multi-layer, separating those different layers becomes very, very cumbersome, and that leads to a lot of those packaging material just being thrown in a like a landfill, or may go to waste to energy plant. So they are not recyclable, although they are theoretically recyclable, but practically they are not recyclable because of all the processes that is required to separate those different multi-layered stuff. So to avoid that, they are trying to go for packaging which is recyclable or compostable, more recycling content, and reducing the material. If you remember from the online shopping that you and I do, we end up buying even a small phone, like a mobile phone will come up with some packaging and then different layers of packaging. So we end up using lots of packaging coming from on online shopping and other like even when you go for certain buying stuff in a mall and other stuff. So their goal is to try to reduce that as much as possible. Of course, we need to make sure the product is safe, and while being transported and while we are bringing it from the say malls and big shops to our home, but at the same time can we reduce it, and how much can be reduced. So that's what they are working on in terms of like packaging there. So in terms of reducing the use of material, while they are continuing to look for ways to develop new packaging solutions, they are also focusing on using lighter, stronger and better material which have lower environmental impact. So it's a lighter material which is and then stronger and better material which have lower environmental impact. So, that is important here. Having a lower environmental impact is something which you can quantify using a tools using like LCA, which we talked about a little bit in the previous video, I think in the last week, where you can use that in terms of life cycle assessment to find out whether its really environmental impact has been reduced or not. So, the aim is to optimize. You can optimize each material each time while they redesign their product, developed compressed version of their product, concentrated and compressed version. So, rather than having say 1 kg of detergent which comes in a particular container where we have to use say 2 spoon of the detergent, can we reduce it to half a spoon of detergent, and then it is more concentrated. So, we can use that, and even if we needed, you can add some water at your home. So, those things are also being looked into. So, concentrated version, compressed version of product, but again as you know, this is a challenging process. It is challenging not from only from a process point of view, it is also challenging from human behavior point of view. So, once if Unilever comes with a detergent where they say that you only have to use half of what you were using earlier, and of course, it will be costly. So, people will think that is it really we are getting the same, are we going to get the same benefit, whether the workability will be the same, or is it just a marketing gimmick to extract more money from us. So, there will be a challenge. It is not easy whenever you go for any change. Of course, there is a challenging process, but people that the companies are already thinking about that. They are looking at potential solution in terms of coming up with steps towards circular economy and coming up with a better packaging. Reducing the use of material, again you require significant investment and ingenuity to reduce the amount of material even by just 1 gram. So, even if they reduce it by 1 gram, there is a return of investment, the ROI is worth it when their innovation successfully reduce the packaging and the waste impact in their value chain, and that reduces the cost and also helps increase in sales. So, they are collaborating with suppliers, academics, startups, other organizations to develop new technologies. This in sort constant flow of innovative solution to help us achieve their target. So, if you are a budding student looking for areas to do research in plastic management or plastic waste management on preventive side rather than on reactive side, rather looking at the managing the waste, how to reduce the amount of waste being produced, and if you have little bit of industrial kind of engineering or mechanical or those kind of background, you can easily look for these kind of courses and these kind of masters or PhD areas where you can try to come up with innovative design for the packaging which can reduce reduce the plastic waste being produced on the first time. So, that will be a good thing to work on, and those are the areas where we really need to do research on to come up with better solutions. And I would strongly encourage you, those of you who are going for more higher studies in this area, to look for those kind of projects. So, if we can use more recycled material that they want to use far more in future and recapture their own packaging. So, can we try to get the packaging back, and that is kind of tie into the big picture extended producer responsibility as well. So, if they can take those packaging material back and reuse it by themselves. So, again it is factors such as availability of high quality waste material, legislation on food contact because in India still recycled plastics or recycled material are not allowed on food contact. Some other countries it is allowed because their recycling processes are much advanced now, and so but in India it is not allowed yet. So, hopefully once our recycling industry peaks up, when the government has confidence that recycled material is it's a cleaner material, it's a sterilized material, it will not create food safety issue, it will be allowed in India as well. It may be in few years, maybe a decade from now, but that is what right now it is not. So, legislation on food contact is which prohibits use of recycled material on food contact. And also when you are trying to recapture your own material and you have to collect it, bring it back, So you have to look at your viable business case. That's makes it challenging as well. So again, these are the areas where a lot of work needs to be done. So as I said in the way, and I've been saying many times in this over the last 8 weeks, that one of the primary goal of this course is to start the discussion on plastic waste management in India. This is not, say, with this course you will not learn the entire plastic waste management, because it is just the beginning, because this is I think this is the first course of this kind being offered in India. So it is just the beginning, because there are a lot of things that are happening every day. New things are coming up, where we are seeing that just recently there was an article where we found 40 kg of plastics in a whale's stomach. The whale has died because it was not getting any, it was not feeling hungry, because and there was, his stomach was always full, but there was no nutrients coming to his body, because that all those plastic was there in whale's body. And today itself I saw it again, another article which talks about that even at the deeper layer of ocean, at 10 different locations in the world, researchers have sampled from the Newcastle University, researchers have sampled the fish in 10 different locations in the world at the deeper layer, some places several thousand feet below the surface of the water, and they found microplastics being present there in most of the fish. More than 70% of the fish was tested to be positive for microplastic, and all 10 locations the fish were there which were positive for microplastic. So so plastic waste is a huge concern, and so this is just, so there are, all of us, those who are interested to work in this area, there are a lot of avenues are there where people can do research on, people can come up with newer solutions, and these are some of the one which companies like Unilever are taking up challenge. And of course this will be any young person looking for innovative ideas to do that. These are the ways where you can come up, you can contribute. Using more recycled material, they must be again innovative and collaborative. You need to have you have to design the product in such a way so that it's easy to recycle after use. So that's very, very important. One of the things which many of these new packaging are coming up, where you will see a plastic bottle which is all wrapped around with plastic. Now that taking that plastic off, it becomes a huge problem. And they are not, usually they will be like 5% or even less than 5%, 1, 2 or 3% of the total plastic load. So it doesn't really make sense to have an extra set of process line to take that plastic off from that PET bottle or HDPE bottle. So what happens? That bottle ends up in a dump site, because it cannot be recycled, or if they have a waste to energy plant, it will end up in it could potentially end up in the waste to energy plant, or if not collected properly by those rack pickers or the informal recyclers, because they did not able to sell that, it will just go into the surface water and finally to the ocean. So when you design something as a marketing MBA, many times they like to make things look really cool. That's okay. Things should look better, they should be attractive, because that's the part of the business, but at the same time it's very, very important, and these days people are taking it very seriously, that we need to design things in such a way so that it becomes easy to recycle after use, and that is there. Other aspect, for when you try to go for recycled material, you have to look at the collection, you have to look at the sorting facilities, and you have to look at the technical and commercial viability of reprocessing them at a scale. So that's also very important. So those are the things that needs to be addressed in terms of when you go for how does it like redesign your packaging part. And in terms of ensuring that plastic packaging is recyclable or compostable, in 2017 Unilever made a commitment to ensure that 100% of their plastic packaging will be designed to be fully reusable, recyclable or compostable by 2025. So they have a target for 8 years. In 8 years, that 100% of their plastic packaging will be fully reusable or recyclable or compostable by 2025. In Chile, for example, they moved from a non-recyclable folding carton across 3 detergent brands. So there are 3 detergent brands they have, and they form a non-recyclable folding carton to a 100% polyethylene HDPE bag, which is recyclable. So, earlier they had non-recyclable folding cartons which was used for these 3 brands, Omo, Drive and Rinso, and these brands are being sold in Chile. Unilever, as you know, they have presence pretty much in all parts of the world, and in different countries they have different name of the brands. In India, I do not think we get these brands, but similar things can be done in Indian context too. But in Chile, they went from these non-recyclable folding cartons for these brands to a recyclable HDPE polythene bag, and that saved 1634 tons of like folding carton material a year. So, and then in that they also looked at plant based material for tea bags. So, tea bags that we use when like our dip tea, look at that tea bags very carefully. Many times those tea bags are also has layers of plastic just to keep things fresh inside, and they have, and when you dip it into the hot water just to keep that intact. Otherwise, if it's just pure paper, it basically, as soon as you put it in the paper, it will as soon as you put it into the hot water, it will get soggy and those tea leaves can come outside. It will go into your cup. So, to keep it intact, there are other material in there, and one of them is a fine layer of plastic. And with this fine layer of plastic, every time you dip your tea bag, you are getting the tiny amount of microplastic getting into your tea bags, getting into your tea. And we consume the tea. So, if you take like 3-4 tea a day like that, you are taking little bit of microplastic every day. So, that is also a issue. So, there is a concern of that throughout the world. So, Unilever is working on looking at finding a plant based material for tea bags derived from renewable sources like corn starch, which can be industrially composted. So, those tea bags can be composted in an industrial scale composter. So, that is those are some of the things they are working on. There are some industrial level changes are also happening in terms of movement to a circular economy approach for plastics. They are looking at changes across more than just their industry, because most of the industries have to work with others. So, they need more circular thinking as a business. They have to work with other companies too, like their partners, their suppliers. So, they are collaborating with several organizations. Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which we talked about in I think the first video or the second video of this week, that is kind of one of the pioneering agency for circular economy thinking around the world. So, if you have interest on circular economy, there are some courses on EDX, Coursera, which is offered on circular economy, but at the same time I would strongly encourage you to go to this Ellen MacArthur Foundation website, and they have wonderful reports on different aspects of circular economy. So, you should be able to read those reports and learn a lot from there. It is a lot of nice infographic, easily explained, and it's better like it's a good learning material for circular economy concepts, and that is important. This is if you are interested in that area. So, Ellen MacArthur Foundation is Unilever is working with them, and they are looking at the new plastics initiative, economy initiative, by committing to publish the full pallets of plastic material that they use in their packaging by 2020. So, having the total disclosure of what kind of material is used and how they are planning to cut it down over the years. Because these things, everything takes time, which we talked about earlier as well. It's that when we were looking at the ban, even if you look at the China ban, they worked on it for quite some years before they really banned it. So, things do take time before you can implement that. And other thing, they are also supporting creation of global plastic protocol, which is a plastic protocol for the industry, setting common agreed definitions and industry standards. So, what materials to use, ensure that packaging is compatible with existing and cost effective recycling infrastructure. So, for example, if they come up with a newer packaging material, but those packaging materials our recycling industry is not ready to work with those plastic material, those new packaging material, then it is a loss, isn't it? We are losing along the system. So, the whole system has to get together. That is why every stakeholder, and that is very important. I say that many times in the solid waste management course course as well, and same thing over here, that you need to take every stakeholder on board, because there are, when from the generation of plastic all the way to disposal and its different uses along the way, different stakeholders are there, and based on what they do with that plastic material, that impacts the recycling people, that impacts the potential waste to energy people, for example plastic to energy people. So we need to have all the stakeholders on board and have a clear conversation, transparent conversation. Transparency is kind of the key of what is happening, so that the people on the next in line in that you can say that global chain of plastic movement is aware of what kind of changes they will expect in few years from now, so that they can get ready. Otherwise, whatever changes you make at the beginning, if it's not followed through in the process, you actually lose whatever progress you made in the beginning, because it may be ending up in again in a landfill or a dump site, because we don't have the follow up systems in place yet. And that happens many times in when we go for a waste management infrastructure in a country like India, because we try to make some progress, but we don't really do our homework properly. We don't take the systems approach. We just go in a silos approach. It's a personality driven system rather than a systems driven, and that creates a lot of problem. So in terms of there are three themes of recycling, reuse, recyclability. The new plastic economy, which represents system level change. So, and working with others in the plastic packaging sector is critical to its success. So you have to work together as a team. The different stakeholders has to come together as a team to really make it work. Developing a market at a post consumer recycled material, greater manufacturer demand for recycled material will produce increasingly attractive business for reprocessing service, and also act as a catalyst to increase the collection and reprocessing of material. So if there is a demand for recycled plastic, you will, if people can make money of recycled plastic, of course the industries will come and then they will set it up, the collection and processing of the material. Other things in partnering with industry, with flexible packaging, rethinking the flexible packaging. So 2016 Unilever joined an initiative called CEFLEX, a consortium of around 60 European companies, organization and association across the entire value chain for flexible packaging. By 2020 developed robust design for circular economy guidelines for both flexible packaging and end of cycle infrastructure to collect, sort and recycle. By 2025, it aims to develop a collection, sorting and reprocessing infrastructure for post-consumer flexible packaging across Europe. So that's their aim to do that. So a lot of work is working in that area, and they're working with governments, fundamentally rethink the design the product. They're working with government in terms of national government to develop waste infrastructure. Again, things cannot work in isolation, so they are have to work with many countries have pretty much little or no infrastructure and limited investment in the waste industry. So they work with government to develop policies, framework, facilitate SIFT, including implementation of EPR, which is the extended producer responsibility. They are working with consumers to increase consumers, therefore have a vital role. The aim is to promote recycling among consumers, raise awareness and at NGO level, help workers economically. Number of projects to encourage consumer to recycle more, and recycling making a lifelong habit. In incentivizing behavior change. So if you can somehow incentivize recycling, so consumers are offered discount benefits to bring their waste packaging to government recycling points. So if you bring your waste recyclable to a designated centers, so once you put a certain amount, you get a discount coupon, for example, and you can use that discount coupon when you buy next time Unilever product. So those things are there. They are also looking at some radical and out of box approaches. So new business model, like rather than having take, make and dispose approach, they want to have a circular economy principle, which is not take, make, dispose is the linear economy that we are talking about. They want to part of circular economy revolution. So they are looking at they're trying to lead the effort in the packaging waste. Also committed to breakthroughs, they have to move towards more circular economy, unlocking the economic prize for business. As you saw earlier, if all the companies start looking at the circular economy aspect and start implementing them, will actually economically will have more GDP, will have more economic activity happening across the globe. So, one of the aspect of circular economy kind of concept is also extended producer responsibility. Now, what does that mean? Extended producer responsibility means that say you have you start with design and manufacture, you design and manufacture that, you get the virgin material to do that. So, then you go for, and when you do that, you incentivize for easy to recycle design. So, you try to come up with easy to recycle design. Then once the product is designed, the consumer purchases that, then clear leveling, which influences decision on purchase and discarding. Then there is a communication campaign which affects consumer behavior. Now, once it is discarded by consumer, it is collected by the local waste management company or local waste management, either the country, either the government based company or the private companies. Then it goes to sorting. Part of it could be exported as well, waste could be exported, or it could be reprocessing, and then it finally comes back into the circle. So, so this is what in terms of extended producer responsibility, the company which is producing that particular material, for example, Unilever making that detergent, the detergent container, detergent bottle that Unilever has given you with the product, as if extended producer responsibility is implemented in India, Unilever will be responsible for managing that plastic container. So, that is what it all about. Now, say either they can do it by themselves, or they can have a system in place where they fund that program and the government gets some waste management company to do that. The later part is more preferable from a western world, that is what they found to be working, because Unilever is good in making detergent, making their product, but they do not have expertise on waste management. So, for the waste management, if there is a company on which has some expertise on waste management, which has expertise on working with plastic waste, it is better for them to come in business, and they get funding for their business through that extended producer responsibility. So, FMCG companies give money through some like government created fund, and these waste management companies get part of that funding to support their business, at least in the initial run, because any of these kind of business, especially in a country like India where things are still evolving in terms of waste management, they need some hand holding, which I keeps on telling probably every other video, that we need to hand hold some of these companies for few years to really get them started. It is like they are babies. We have to, as a government being the parent, they have to make sure that the babies are good enough, strong enough to stand on their own, and then we can take back and let them enjoy the benefit and do their own business. But initially they do require some support, and which some may not agree with me, but that is what based on looking at waste management in several countries, as well as looking at the history of waste management in Western Europe or Canada or Australia, New Zealand, and those kind of countries where there is some good waste management practices happening. That is how it was done. So, it requires whether we like it, we do not like it, but that is kind of the reality. So, you can go for, whenever you go in terms of recycling, you can create a recycling value chain. So, you start from the waste, you collect. So, we are looking at waste being generated, it is collected, it is sorted out in different categories, it is recycled, and from recycle you produce secondary raw material. So, that is this secondary raw material again kind of goes back to manufacturing first. So, it will go to manufacture. So, it will be manufactured, and then after manufacturing the waste will be produced. So, it will again the cycle can continue back. So, this is right now what you see here is actually from what it is not from the waste to raw material, and from raw material to product, and then use of the product and future waste generation. So, that is the whole cycle will complete that way. So, that is what will create a concept of circular economy. So, and then there are in terms of various some recycling rates of, if you look at some of the recycling rates, and with this we will just stop in this particular video. So, if you in terms of the various drink containers This data is from 2016, so around slightly more than 2 years old or 2 years old. So, we have 70% of consumer plastic drink bottles, it was recycled globally, and 70% of consumer glass drink bottles, 70% of consumer aluminum cans, 70% of consumer steel cans, and 37% of cartoons. This is those small like fruity and those that Amul lassi kind of container. So, those are with a straw, you see that. So, this is, as you can see, 74% or approximately 70% of the drink bottles, different drink bottles, whether it's plastic, glass, aluminum cans or steel cans, that has been recycled, and but 37% of cartoons was recycled, and this data is coming from British Plastic Federation. So, the rest, more than around 30% is not being recycled for most part, and if these Tetra packs, these cartoon packs, even close to more than 60% is not recycled. So, it is being ending up in waste like landfills or waste to energy plants. So, let us stop here. So, we will continue our discussion. We talked about this circular economy aspect, the case study. In this video, the focus was on looking at a case study from Unilever, which is one of the biggest FMCG company in the world. You saw the example that how that company is working on trying to move from linear economy to circular economy in terms of in terms of packaging, and all the different aspects associated with that in terms of getting the different stakeholders involved, and trying to come up with material which can be easy to recycle, try to design packaging in such a way so that it's easy to we can bring it back and use it again in our value chain. So that's kind of give you that example of a circular economy approach of plastic management. So with that, let's just stop here again. I hope you are enjoying the course. We are almost towards the end of the course. I hope you had a good time, and keep the discussion board active so that we can answer your question, that we will be answering it through all the way to the exam time. So, if you have any question, feel free to put it on discussion board, and as you know, our goal is to respond to you within 24 hours, and we are trying to do that at our best. So, thank you. See you again.